I think it's not the devrelshow if I'm not dancing right from the start from the song. I know you probably get bored about that, but I still really love that countdown music. I need to dance all the time, even if I really dance like shit. Uh, you know, it's life. It's just about having fun. It's the Devrel show. It's my show. I can do whatever I want. So if I want to start it by dancing, I'm gonna dance. So on that note, it's already first. It's the first show of 2024. So I guess that give me the right to say Happy New Year, everyone. I'm going to be boring. I'm going to wish you health and happiness because I think those are the two things that you need in life. They're the most important. After that, you know what? Try to get whatever you want, whatever you prefer. But again, Happy New Year. It's also already episode number 8. So super excited. I have Marcel with me, which we do not know each other. So that's the first time we're talking together. We talked, to be honest, we talked a little bit before the show, but barely, which is part of the things I love about that show. We talk about DevRel, have a guest every episode, and some people that I already know, some people that I never like met in person, or even not even I'm not even sure if we were following each other on like different social media before. So always excited to meet a new person first, but also meet a colleague who works in developer relation, because that's a big and small world out there. I think it's important to get to know folks doing the same job as you. So Marcel, thanks for joining us. How is life?
Hey, Fred, thanks for having me. Life is great. A new year ahead, so happy new year to everyone. It's great talking to you. I think it's a great community, a DevRel community that's been emerging in many different social media. So it's very nice to meet someone else and to talk to all of you who are interested in this topic.
Yeah, and I really think, and I really hope for folks in 2024, there's going to be a better year for developer relation. I know the last couple of months were rough. I see so many people who lost their job because, as we know, quite often developer relation may not be a priority in the company. So when the company is not going super well, we're quite usually one of the first people to get let go. And I see many people were looking for job, and the option were not that many. We didn't have that many options in the last couple of months, but like it seems like, yes, it's the beginning of the year, but it seems like we are starting to see more and more jobs out there. So if you're looking for a developer advocate job, I cross my finger for you. I really hope you find something interesting, something that is challenging, and obviously that pay well, because we work, we do this for a living. So with that note, Marcel, what are you doing for a living? So you're a developer advocate at, did I say it well, Seqera?
Yeah, Seqera. So I'm a developer advocate
Seqera.
at Seqera, the company behind Nextflow, a very famous open source software in the bioinformatics academia and industry scenario in general. So it's a very interesting company, a very interesting project with an amazing community, and it's been very nice that the company saw the importance of having a developer relations team to help the community grow healthily and so on.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Like I like when company, I don't know, is it a like large company or?
No, it's not. So when I joined the company almost 2 years ago, I think I was number 34. Now
Okay.
we are approaching 100. So it's still a small
Oh,
company compared to, I don't know, Google and so on, right?
no, but still, that's an amazing growth. Like in about
Yeah.
like not even 2 years, and I was asking that because you said like, hey, it's great that they saw the value in having a developer advocate, and they saw it quite quickly because you were an employee, as you said, like 30 something. So
Yeah.
that's pretty good. And so what's your role? Like, I know developer advocate, you have a title. We all have like a title around developer advocate, but we also know that the role may be different from one company to another. So can you tell me just a little bit, or tell us just a little more about what exactly do you do in your developer advocate role?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about the role in Seqera in general in the Nextflow community, it's like when the company had like 3-4 employees, the community was already very large, right? Thousands of
Mm.
people. So I think
Wow.
my role is slightly different compared to other people, because when I joined, the developer advocate team was very new. I mean, I joined in July. My manager had joined like 3 months before. A colleague had joined 2 months before, so it was very new. But we already had tens of thousands of users in the community. I think 30,000 readers, unique readers of the documentation every month. So the community was already there. It wasn't really my role to create a community. The community was there, was growing very well, but we had to make sure the community feels supported, and they have what they need to keep growing, and the voluntary activities that we have and we want them to do, and so on. So my role these days is right now it's mostly like with ambassador program. We launched our ambassador program in October last year, so it's been making sure it has a nice kickoff and it's growing healthily and achieving the results that we want. We also have a mentorship program that is in the third round. We finished the third round, so it was part of my role to. I mean, the third round, I was in charge of it. My colleague Chris Hackard was in charge of the second round, and Phil before in the first round. So we also have the blogs of the company. We have our presence in social media. We have community support for Nextflow, which is open source software, but also for other technologies that the company develops. So it's a lot of stuff, which is something that I like, because you start your day, you have a menu of different things you could do, and if you are too bored with one thing today, you can go to another. So it's mostly attending events, giving talks, giving trainings, organizing events, assisting the community in what they need to grow and to do their job. The ambassador program, the mentorship program, it's mostly these things. And
That's
also
amazing.
inside the company, right? Because even though it's a small company to some standards, you have people who don't know how to write code, don't understand what's the heart of the company in terms of what makes the company make money, and so on. So we also have a work inside the company in a way, because we have to train people and educate people what is the community. For a lot of people, regardless of their experience, if they have never worked with a company or a product that had a community, or an open source project, for example, they have no idea why the community is important. And this is something I really enjoy, that ever since I joined Seqera, from the very beginning, it was very clear to me that the leadership, the CDO, which is Paulo Di Tommaso, and the CEO, which is Evan Floden, it was very clear to me that both of them had very clear, crystal clear, the importance of community and having a community team. So the whole team, we have always felt very supported in the goal to support the community, and this is very important. So whenever someone joins the company, we have this experience of explaining to them the importance of the community and so on. I know it's obvious for most people watching the show that community is very important, but later in the show, when I'm talking more about the technology, you will understand why the community is even more important in our situation.
I would say it maybe not be as obvious as you think sometimes, especially also the part where there's two things there's a lot of things in what you said that I would like to come back, but like when you were talking about the fact that like you need to also do some work inside of the company. I mean, like, it's part of the title, we're developer advocates, so yes, we advocates to developer, but we also need to advocate for developers inside. So I think it's part of our job to help the company understand the importance of developer relation, as you said, the importance of the community. And maybe it's the cynical part of me doing that job for like 12 years now, but we also need to defend the communities and how we approach the communities. And it depends on the company, it depends on the position of their people, depends on like how different departments work. But sometimes we need to, as good or sad it can be, defense, because of marketing's like traditional marketing's going to approach a community in one way, and it may hurt the work we're doing. Sales may approach a community in another different way that may hurt the work that we're doing. So we need to be sure that we have a working relationship with those departments, that we help them to understand how to approach that specific audience. And also they have a job to do, so it's fine, but we need to find like what's the way that we can both do our jobs effectively and efficiently, to have like be able to reach each our own goals while we don't hurt each other's work or other community. So I think that's really kind of like part of important.
Yeah, totally.
And one of the things that I would like to, if you want to talk a little more about that, I'm really interested in the ambassador program, because as far as I remember, it's not a topic we discussed yet in the DevRel show. But I feel like those programs are super important, because we talk to people and like leadership team, and they always want us to have like more people involved, and especially if you have like you're an open source project, you want external contributor and people to create issues, but like it's all people spending time on your product for a for-profit company. So you need to find those win-win situation. And I hope that like in most of the ambassador program or MVP program or expert programs out there, it's kind of like the main goal. So I would like to, if there's like any like public information you can share about like how you're managing the ambassador program and what does it mean for your company, so people can learn a little more about those kind of program, but also any other developer relation person who would like to start that kind of program would have a little more knowledge about what those are.
Yeah. So for the program was launched in October, so it's very recent. The first batch, I mean, with Christmas, and then it was almost November at the end of October. So we had Christmas and everything. So the program is still at the beginning, but you already can have access to a few stuff. So if you go to nextflow.io, which is the website of, I can get the link here. So nextflow.io, you can go to the Nextflow tab, the community tab. Then you're gonna have Nextflow ambassadors. I'm gonna paste the link in the chat here. So with that, you can have the list of ambassadors. You can have some information about the program, and at the bottom you have the Nextflow Ambassador Handbook, which is a document that we're still working on, but the first version is already there. And we have lots of information to support ambassadors in their role, but also for people to know what they will end up doing if they decide to apply for a position as an ambassador, right? So this is the public information we have right now. It's not much, but it's already shows the direction we want to take this. And I think it's a very interesting initiative. Actually, even when I was applying for the position at Seqera, this is one of the topics that came up because of my experience in these programs. So in the past, I was an ambassador in the Fedora project, which is the open source version of the Red Hat Enterprise Linux from the company Red Hat. So I think the first time I was an ambassador was in the Fedora project, but then after that, I participated in other projects. I assisted other companies in projects to create their ambassador programs. And it's always very interesting that the easy part, which is not so rare, and it's the case here, is that you already have people being ambassadors, but they don't have the title, right? So they already talk about your product. They already love the work you're doing. You know these people sometimes. They really help you spread the word about the technology, the features, and everything, but they don't have the title or any support from the project or from the company. So one of the main things that we had in mind when we decided to create the Nextflow Ambassador program is, it's a way to say thank you to all these people who have been doing this amazing job for us throughout the years.
So important.
And in this first batch, for example, most people, it's almost as we said, okay, you're already an ambassador. You just have the title, but don't do anything else because you're already doing everything we expect from you. Sometimes you're doing even more because, as you said, I mean, it's a voluntary work. I mean, we cannot make people do what we want. They have to do what they feel like it's good. And for a lot of these people, it's like, just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing the great work because you are already an ambassador. The only thing that changes is that now we're giving you this title. We're going to help amplify your post, like whatever you write about Nextflow, you try to highlight and amplify that. We're going to amplify your reach through every ways we can do. We can fund you to go to events to talk about us. If you want to organize a local hackathon or something, we can pay pizza or something like this. So it's just like people keeping doing what they're doing, the great work they're doing, and we're going to find ways to support them. And if they can think about another way that we can support them that we haven't thought of yet, they can share with us, and we're going to try to see if we can do that, if we can help them keep doing the great work they're doing. So this includes organizing events. This includes a lot of outreach work, giving talks, going to events, presenting posters, organizing hackathons, participating in hackathons, giving trainings in local universities, doing community support, all this stuff.
That's amazing, and you touch on a couple of great points, like you said, like people, they're giving their time, and now you're basically telling them like, hey, you're doing an amazing job. Let me be clear about that. Let me tell you, let me thank you. And yeah, obviously, like we're like it's not like we're giving them a job, but like we're still like helping them to get recognition, which is also important, and helping them in their interview. And like those kind of programs or those kind of helps from company, this is basically what helps me to get started too in developer relation. When I was doing stuff and I had those company that said like, hey, you're doing that meetups. It was not in ambassador program, but it was something where they were like, hey, like we're going to pay for a pizza because you're doing an amazing job in the community. And even if it was not even related to their technology, they were just like, hey, we needed someone to have that to manage that user group in that city, and now you gave us a venue where we could maybe send speakers or having someone from our community. And like just that help was like a good pat in my back to say like, hey, you know what, I think I'm doing something valuable, but not just for the people in the community, also for the people in
Mhm.
those bigger company that are there to support me. So this is something that I encourage people to do, having a proper ambassador program. Even as you said, even if it's just at the beginning, just already like telling people that are already doing great job, like, hey, now we give you that recognition, which is like already a lot. And you already have those people in your community, and not just like open source project. Like any company has their fans, any company has their spokesperson, their unofficial
Yeah.
spokesperson, because they love your product, they love what you do, they're just excited to share that with other people. Like we all do that. We are all influencers for different companies, whether they pay us, whether we're part of ambassador program or not. But like having those, I feel they're super important. First, for the people doing the job, but let's be honest, for the company too, like you're gonna rip some benefits out of it, because the
Yeah.
people that were already ambassador without having the title, they're going to be even more excited to do stuff. They're going to be even more motivated, and you're going to be able to identify other people that can help you like share the love about your product. So I think it's a really
Definitely.
great initiative. uh, so
And I think
good
that
job
there's
on that.
another key thing is like when Marcel, I'm an Nextflow ambassador, but I'm also an employee at Seqera. When I say good things about Seqera, even though I'm being honest, it's an employee, right? I'm talking about, I have to talk good things about this thing because
Mhm.
if the company breaks, I'm in trouble. But when it's an ambassador saying good thing, it's a whole different thing. It's a volunteer who decided that he wanted to he or she spend their time in this project, and they're still here going to this event and telling you they love the tool. It's a whole different thing. So I think there are
Yes.
multiple benefits we get from programs like the ambassador program.
Yeah, like having influencers, having people in your community that talks on your behalf has way more weight than like any employees doing so. Because like as much as I like to say that I'm someone who is honest and transparent, and if I don't like my product or I don't like the company I work for, I'm not gonna work there. I've done it in the
Yeah.
past when thing changes, I change job, but I'm still getting paid by the company. So it's your right to not trust what I'm saying, because you're like, hey, you're an employee. Of course, you're not going to say shit about
Mm.
your employer, your product. So when it's a third party saying those kind of things, that like the impact is way bigger. So yeah, that's the same thing for everything is live. But like as developer advocate, having those people in your community that you work with, that you share, that you empower to help you, but also again, don't try to use them at cheap labor too. Like try to
Yeah,
find
you're
that
right.
win-win situation, because their time is as valuable as yours, and yours you're getting paid and they're not. So try to find that
Yeah.
win-win situation where yes, they help you in what you're trying to achieve, but also you're able to help them in different fashions.
Yeah.
So again,
I think
good job for that.
the secret is trying to identify what they love to do. And
Mhm.
like maybe this person doesn't like to write, but the person loves to talk. So what about proposing this person to go give a talk in an event? They already would do that. They love to
Yep.
talk. If you press this person to write, if you pressure them to write,
Oh yeah.
they're gonna leave the program, right? So I think the idea is that we have this pool of people who want to be volunteers, and my goal, I would say, is like to identify what they would love to do and help them do that. Great. If they love to do it but they're not good enough, help them learn how to write, to talk.
Mhm.
We have like assets like slide templates, images. We have lots of stuff to help them do great work that they want to do. And then
Yep.
this way I think it's great. And like it's like you said, like some people say, oh, let's have like 1,000 blog posts. It doesn't work like that. I mean, we're not paying them like an employee, right? We have to expect, every 3 months some reasonable contribution, like a blog post or something like this. It depends. Some people, they have more time, less time. You have to kind of have this individual look at every individual and identify how available are they, how willing are they to do this and this, what they want to do. And this is one of the reasons that I was part of like the owner of the program, because my goal would be to identify for every individual how I can help them. The thing is, this doesn't scale very well, right? Because if we have like, I don't know, 200 ambassadors, it's impossible for me alone to do that. The thing is, with the Fedora Ambassador program that I participated, I think it was very nice because at some point, the current ambassadors, they were mentoring the next batches, and this next batch was mentoring the next one. Yeah. So in the end, the program managed to scale, and that's what we're trying to do now, to build it in a way that it can scale well.
Yeah, and that's brilliant the way you've done it, because I've seen when I was it's been probably like 10 years now or more, when I was working at Microsoft, they still have the Microsoft MVP program, which is kind of like an ambassador program. But I think it changed now, but like it was really rigid in terms of like you need to do X number of blog posts, you need to speak at X conferences, you need to do this and that. And it's great because like you find that win situation, so you need some expectation, like the people need to give a little bit, so you give a little bit. But at the same time, because it was about like, hey, you need to hit all the KPI that we care about, where you may not care about those, as you said, like you may not care about writing blog posts, but like public speaking is something exciting for you. Why not focus on that and use the strengths of that person? Or the other way around, like you prefer to write and like speaking in front of people, like it's something that terrible to you, you're stressed out, you don't want to do that. Like why force someone to do that? You're not going to get good return on investment, you're going to lose your people. So I think doing it like that is probably the way to go. The other thing that you mentioned that I'm curious about is the mentorship program. What does that mean? Like, what is a mentorship program at Seqera? Is it about specifically about your technology? Is it about helping people to learn about the field? Is it how does that work?
So the idea is, so maybe we have to talk a bit about Nextflow to better explain the mentorship program. So Nextflow is an open source software that you can use to orchestrate data pipelines. So what does this mean? So let's say that you have a workflow. You want to know, you got some data, you want to download this data, you want to organize this data some way, you want to do some pre-process, you want to do some filtering, you want to do some analysis, get some, some statistics, and then you want to build a report, and you're going to send this report by email to someone. So it's a workflow, right? It's a lot of steps. Mm-hmm. And supposedly you are doing that manually. And then you say, like, no, I'm going to write this computer program that's going to tie everything together. I'm going to press a button. It's going to do everything for me. It's better because it's automated, right? But if you have to leave your job, or if you have to share this with someone, if they try to run the same R script or Python script in their machine, I mean, it could be a nightmare, right? And sometimes they will be able to run, but the result is going to be different. And then it's chaos. Like if you do an analysis for a customer, for example, and the result is different in their machine compared to yours, like what's the right result, right? Yeah. So Nextflow, among other tools, was created in the academic scenario where they really needed this reproducibility. They had researchers, experiments. They were doing that. They couldn't reproduce. They couldn't repeat. Sometimes they could repeat. They couldn't reproduce the results. So how can you automate these pipelines, right? And you can kind of can them in a package. You can share with people. They can use that and get the same result easily, running regardless of the machine. You have Windows, I have Linux, he has Mac OS or something like this. In my machine, which is the server, you have using the cloud. How can you make sure it's easy to repeat and reproduce the result of analysis everywhere? Then Nextflow was born. To give you an idea on the application of that, multiple variants of SARS-CoV-2, right, the COVID-19 virus, was identified using Nextflow. So researchers in the UK, they were able to identify this. And the nice thing is, any person in the world with the data could just run the pipeline and would get the same result with their new data, with the data they have, right? The correct result, let's say. Yeah. So it's just a way to automate these things. Because it was born in the bioinformatics context, right? It's highly used for biotechnology companies and research groups and so on, but it could be used anywhere. And right now we are starting to see physicists, chemists, data scientists, people in all different fields and scenarios using Nextflow. So having said that, we have the tool, we have documentation, we have lots of different things that we can talk throughout the program today. But basically, some people, they said, okay, I like Nextflow, I want to use Nextflow, but I don't know how. Or maybe I know a bit, but I'm a bit lost. Or maybe I made it work, but I'm stuck in some situations. So the mentorship program was an opportunity that you could apply for and get an expert to mentor you, help solve your problem during 3 to 4 months, 2 hours a week. So it's not that I'm going to mentor you and I'm going to give you a problem or tell you what to do. You're going to tell me what you need help with, and I'm going to help you solve your problem. So the mentorship was born out of CZI grant, a Chan Zuckerberg Initiative grant. So we had some money to pay the mentors to mentor these mentees.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right? And one of the goals was diversity. So we wanted to reach people in underrepresented regions and underrepresented like minorities in all this in these different scenarios in different countries and so on. We had 3 rounds already. The money wasn't a lot, so we couldn't have many mentors. But at some point, we identified some people that wanted to mentor for free. So the scale grew reasonably. And I think in the end, we had maybe over 20 or 30 people that were mentored throughout the last 3 years. And we had, usually we wanted to help, like, if you are like an expert, I mean, sometimes people don't need our help, or maybe they don't need as much as some people at the beginning of their careers. So the goal was to help master students or PhD students or junior scientists in a company, junior analysts and things like this. And the experience was great. I was mentoring in the last 2 rounds. It was amazing to help people solve issues they had. And in the end, it allowed them to be, we didn't have an ambassador program yet, but to be ambassadors, because now they really understand the tool. They have a nice pipeline they can share. They can help people in their company, in their labs. They can give talks. They can organize local hackathons and stuff like this. So it was a very successful program in the sense that we were able to do that. So just to give you an idea, in the first round, about how outreach is important, right? So we had this program to pay mentors to mentor people who need help all over the world. The first round, we had nobody from Latin America and the Caribbean selected in the batch. So when I joined the company, I was like, oh, come on, I'm from Brazil. What's wrong here, right? So I went to the list to see why people were not selected. And the reason is because nobody applied. So in the way it was done, the message didn't reach Latin America and the Caribbean. So it was really hard to spread the word there. We don't have a lot of... I went to this event last year. I think it was a bioinformatics education in Latin America, something like this is the name of the event. And it's funny that if you get all the graduate programs in bioinformatics in the whole Latin America and the Caribbean, is not even close to 10 or 20% of the programs in the US alone, or even if you go to Spain or other European countries. So we don't have a lot of programs. We don't have a lot of people. We don't have a lot of companies doing biotech. So it's understandable that we didn't have a lot of people, but I said, okay, we can do better. In the second round, I think 40% of the worldwide applications, they were from Latin America and the Caribbean. So it was a bit better. And I think we had 40, I think 40% of the batch was composed of Latin American people from Latin American Caribbean, women, people from underrepresented regions, even in Brazil, right? So it was a very successful program. In the third round, we had the same thing. So people from Africa, for example, people from Australia, New Zealand. So we were able to help a lot of people make a lot of interesting projects go live and work, and at the same time help spread the word about Nextflow to these underrepresented regions and to minorities and so on. So the program was very successful in this sense.
Yeah, I love that, because that's a good mix of, let's be honest, helping the business because you help people to better use the product, but at the same time, this is knowledge that they can keep and that they can reuse, and that can help them being more productive, or that can help them in the future job or like future project. So I think it's amazing. And especially the fact that you had money to pay those people. Again, it's coming back to like, hey, let's find a win-win situation and not always try to use goodwill of people to be like cheap labor. So that's awesome. I mean, it's knowledge. Knowledge is payable. Like, we pay people for their knowledge. So I think that's amazing. We talked a lot about the.
So sorry, just talking from the mentee side, like you mentioned, like when I did my master's degree in bioinformatics, I didn't know about Nextflow, and it was a pain. So today I say, like, if I knew Nextflow back then, I would have done 2 master degrees in the time of one, because Nextflow makes it much easier.
That's amazing. So people that are curious, we're gonna demo a little more, talk a little more about Nextflow in the demo section of the show. And I really love what you said. Not specifically about the product because I don't know the product yet, so I cannot agree or disagree with you. If it's a good product, I'm gonna trust you. But the excitement and the belief you have in that product, what is what I believe. I hope makes you a good developer advocate, because
Yeah,
I've always say that like the difference, and I'm not saying it's better if it's worse, but like the difference with your job compared to a lot of other jobs is that there's a lot of other jobs that you can do just for the sake of like, hey, I'm doing the job, I need money to pay the bills and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I work because I need money to pay the bill, but if I'm not just at least a little bit passionate about my product, I'm not going to be successful as a developer
yeah,
advocate, because there is no way I'm going to be able to bullshit people about like, hey, that's a nice project, a nice product, when I
yeah.
don't believe it, when I don't trust the product, when I don't think it's doing a great job. So part of our job, we need to be excited or passionate about our product and believe that like it's really solving issues, or it's really helping people being whatever more successful, faster in what they do, or be more productive. Because we're not going to be able to advocate to our audience, to developers, if we don't share the same passion that like those users may have. So that's awesome. We talked a lot about like what you do at work. I just have like, we didn't really talk that much about you specifically. I was just curious. So you've been a developer advocate for nearly 2 years now.
Mhm.
Can you tell me just a little bit about like how you became a developer advocate? Because I think before you were a
Sure.
developer and you did some research and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So
So let's go back a long time ago. Like I'm from Brazil, like I said initially. So I did a computer engineering degree in Brazil. Then I was a developer. I was from the very beginning working in healthcare. So I joined this lab that was creating technology for healthcare. I helped develop some softwares that we have in Brazil right now for the Ministry of Healthcare and so on. So I was like writing code for health. That's it. I ended my computer engineering degree, and then I kind of was inside academia for a long time. So I had a degree in big data. I have a degree, right, in health informatics. Then I went for a master's degree in bioinformatics. Then I had all of this in Brazil, still writing code, but each time more inside academia, let's say. Then at some point there was this opportunity that was game changing for me to go to Paris for 4 years to do a PhD. So I went to Paris. It was a great experience. Did my PhD there in bioinformatics. Learned lots of stuff. I did the PhD. So in France things are a bit complicated. So my PhD was in Sorbonne Université, but the whole
mhm.
time I was inside an institute called Institut Curie from Marie Curie, like she founded the institute, and they are very modern research institution in a way. So they really had lots of trainings in case you want to go to industry after your PhD. So I did lots of training. There are a lot of interesting opportunities. So when the PhD was approaching the end, I was kind of sure that okay, I want to go to industry. I don't want to go for a postdoc or anything like this. I want to go to industry. And the thing is, I wanted to go back to Brazil, but it depends on the opportunities, right? Maybe I had to stay in France, maybe I had to go somewhere else. So I started looking for opportunities that were nice and that maybe could lead me to Brazil. And then there was this opportunity to be a developer advocate at Seqera. The interesting thing is that it was a developer advocate position for Latin America and the Caribbean, and the person had to be in the region or move to the region. And it was
Nice.
perfect because I wanted to move back to the region. And you could pick the city. So okay, I'm gonna pick my hometown, right? Uh, so when I read more about the opportunity, really like it was love at first sight because I saw that I was the person they were looking for. And this opportunity was the ones that I was looking for because they wanted someone with some open source experience that I had a lot. I've been working with open source for, I don't know, 20, 25 years, something like this right now. Long, long time working multiple different projects. So expertise with open source was good. Like community management with my time with Fedora and all these things was also good.
Hmm.
It was a bioinformatics company. I had like a master degree in bioinformatics, PhD degree in bioinformatics, and so on. Had to write some code also for training, and Nextflow is a programming language in the end. So knowing to code was also a good thing. I am a computer engineer. So when I was looking at the check boxes, I was like, oh my God, that's for me. I mean, I'm happy for them because they found me, and I'm happy for me because I found them. It was a great opportunity. It wasn't LinkedIn or anything. It was like a random mailing list that I saw this opportunity. So I applied for the position. I think 3 minutes later, I got an email saying, "Hey, in your CV, you live in Paris. Can you move to Brazil if required?" And I was like, "I'm going to Brazil. If I can go with you, it would be great." But I'm already going back to Brazil, so let's hope it works so that I can go to Brazil employed by you. And that's how I landed this developer advocate position.
Awesome. And can I assume, am I right to assume that like you love that job and you're still loving it after nearly 2 years?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, the team is great. Like few years, which used to be my manager. Now we have Geraldine, which is from the US. The managers are great. The company, the energy, in the retreats, you are able to get to know more people. The energy is great. The company, like at some point, from the very beginning, it was clear the company had to grow fast, right? Because we have many customers, the project is huge. We need more people. But from the very beginning, when I talked with the CEO at some point, he was like, great to grow, but we gotta keep the culture of the company, right? We have to
Mhm.
grow healthily. We have to make sure we grow without losing ourselves and forgetting what we're trying to do. And this is one of the things that I think it's the most interesting about Seqera. The company has been growing very fast, and it feels just like the first day. New people, when they join, like in a few weeks,
Mm.
you already see, of course, everyone brings their different backgrounds, they have different
Yeah.
opinions, different ways about seeing the world. That's clear. But everyone is very aligned in the type of work culture that we want, and very aligned in where we want to go as a company. So this is great. It's a great environment, and the Nextflow community is also amazing. So I'm as happy as I was the day I joined the company and joined the community.
That's amazing. Actually, yeah, it's true. Like doing your job, or I assume like people doing specifically community management, like the people from the community, they're as important as like your coworkers, because like you work with them, you talk with them all the time, you communicate with them. So yeah, your community needs to be a nice place to spend time with. And so yeah, that's amazing. So on that note, we could probably talk a lot more about like your experience, developer relation, but times fly fast when you are with nice people to talk with. So I would
Thanks.
like us to jump to the demo part of the show.
Mhm.
But before that, I just want to take a couple of seconds to thank our sponsor, Cube First. They're my employer, but they're sponsoring that live stream. So they're basically giving me the time to do my personal live stream, developer relations live stream, because they believe in my role, they believe in what we do. So take the times to go give some love, go check cubefirst.io, like us on GitHub. What we're doing is GitHub's instant platform for Kubernetes. So basically, we help you to create Kubernetes cluster with all the open source cloud native tools that you want in a couple of minutes, instead of like weeks or even months. So give it a try. Thanks again for sponsoring that live stream. That means a lot to me. And on that note, Marcel, the stage is yours.
Okay, so I'm gonna first start talking about, sorry, about Nextflow, right? So Nextflow is an open source project. It's two things mostly. The first thing is a language, is a DSL, what we call a domain specific language, to describe data pipelines. So you have your softwares, your data, you have lots of different things. You have your scripts, your R scripts, Python scripts, whatever you have, your MATLAB scripts, it doesn't matter the technology. You have your workflow, but they are not connected, right? They are loose. You have to manually run each of them and move files around and so on. So Nextflow initially is a language that you're gonna describe how this is going to work. Yeah, we have one example, for example. So we have the training platform at training.nextflow.io. Basically, what we're gonna have, you're gonna create describe channels, which are just like queues of data. You're gonna say, this input files, this input information is gonna put in this channel or that channel and so on. And you're gonna create processes which are the description of a task. So in here we have this example here, a process called say hello. It's gonna expect as input a value. We're gonna call cheers. As output of this process, we're gonna go send this text to the standard output. And here it's what's really going to happen, right? You're gonna print the content of this variable. But I could run here a Python script or an R script, a compiled program. I could do any computational thing I want, I can do here. And then we have the workflow block that can help me do that. get the channel with this information, pass this to this process, and this process, and this process, and so on. So I don't want to teach anyone to write Nextflow code here. I just wanted to make sure it's clear that Nextflow, before anything else, it's a language where you describe what's happening, what's coming in, what you expect to come out, how you want to do that, but it's not what's done in the end. Your R script or your Python script or your C program, it's what's going to do the analysis. You're just saying, I'm going to run this program. I'm going to put this inside. I expect this to come out, something like this. Apart from this language to describe this, we have Nextflow, the engine, right? So it's the program who's going to orchestrate that for you. So now if I have 2 billion samples, for example, and I want to run part of the task in my local machine, part I want to send to a virtual machine that I have on Amazon, AWS, maybe some other part I want to run in a local cluster in my institution, and I want all of this to be put together and organized in the end and saved to a bucket that I have in Google Storage, for example. So you can just do that with, say, like Nextflow, run my pipeline. It's going to do everything for you. So basically, that's what Nextflow offers to you. You write in your language, in the Nextflow language, what we want to do. It's going to be run everywhere. You have this abstraction. You move to a different infrastructure. Now it's Amazon AWS. You just say that. You moved back to Google Cloud or to Microsoft Azure. It supports multiple different infrastructures and technologies. You just have to say which one it's running now, and it's going to run for you. And that's the good part about the reproducibility. What you had working before in Amazon AWS, now it's going to work just the same in Azure, and you're going to get the same result, right? So this is good not only for science, but you want in your company, the analysis that you do, you want them to be reproducible. So it works for everyone. The thing is, it's a command line program, right? You go to the terminal and you run Nextflow, run something. If I'm working in a small group with a small project, that's fine, because we can share. You can connect to the same server or something like this. It's fine. But when we have multiple different pipelines, a lot of data, large groups working together, and so on, it becomes a bit difficult to manage these Nextflow pipelines. And then we go to Seqera Cloud, which is a solution by Seqera, my employer, which is the company behind Nextflow, that allows you to manage your pipeline, your runs, and so on. So here, everyone can create a free account in Seqera. You can go tower.nf or cloud.seqera.io. By going to this website, basically, you can create a free account, and you're going to get some credits to play for free with the pipelines that are already registered here. So they're going to have some compute environment that you can use for free for a while, and you can try your stuff. So here, for example, Patel, which is a Harshville friend of mine, he was running this pipeline, which is an RNA-seq pipeline. It's a bioinformatics pipeline. It's over, right? It's successful. So we already have everything that happened. Here we know what was typed. In the end, he just clicked the button because he was using Seqera Cloud. But if it was in the terminal, he would type this, a GitHub repository from the pipeline, and Nextflow automatically git post this repository, organize everything in your machine, and run the Nextflow pipeline. He gave a name, some parameters. In the end, you have lots of information here, but what was happening was using AWS batch. It was an S3 bucket where the results were stored. Some labels, the version of Nextflow. We have here 192 tasks were executed, and they were all successful, right? You have every task here. You can click one of them and get some information about, what's actually done. So here was a shell script with these parameters. It was using a Docker container. It was using a specific queue in AWS. We requested 2 CPUs, 6 gigabytes of RAM. You have lots of details about specifically that task, not the pipeline, but the single task, right? The percent of CPU that was used. And if you have 4 tasks, you can do that on a terminal. But if you have 1,000, 20,000, you need a platform to follow that, right? That's why Seqera Cloud is so used. You have some plots here about the request that you use for every task, every process, how much CPU was used, percent allocated. You have something for memory, job duration, I/O, read and write. So you can really understand what's happening in your pipeline, and you can optimize your pipeline by knowing what was too much or too little that you requested, right? This is just a run view, but you can also do lots of different things. You can manage your compute environments. Maybe your company has, an account on Azure, 3 accounts on Amazon AWS, so on, different EC2 machine, virtual machines. you can have all your compute environments in this tab, and you can manage that. And when you add a pipeline, you can say, this pipeline is going to run in this specific compute environments. You can manage credentials. You can explore your data in the Seqera Studio, in Seqera Cloud. You can manage data sets also inside. There are some data sets here. So it's a very powerful platform. I mean, I could take like the whole day talking about it here, but it just makes Nextflow, which is amazing, even more interesting. One nice thing that you can see this icon here is that sometimes you prepare your pipeline, you run it. And let's say we are running on AWS. It's going to request this virtual machine with this Docker container and so on, blah, 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 blah. The thing is, if you request a machine with, I don't know, 20 gigabytes of RAM, and the task that was planned to be used in this virtual machine ends in 2 seconds and needs, I don't know, 1 megabyte of RAM, you're just wasting money, basically. And one thing that's done here, and that's what these light bulbs are showing, is that there's an artificial intelligence in Seqera Cloud that's going to investigate if you could better request resources so that your pipeline can run quicker and cheaper. And in the end, what we saw in some analysis, that we could get the cost down to 80%, and run much, much faster. So one of the things that is used is that if you go here to these plots, so let's talk about memory, right? So the percent of RAM allocated. So in some of these box plots, you could request less resources, and you request too much. Or here for CPU, right? So for that, you could manually look at this plot and pick what's the good measure, but it does this automatically for you. So when you go to the runs, you could just click here for this one, for example, and it's going to show you, how you want to optimize. You want to optimize memory, CPU, retry in a way or another, and then you go to here, you see the code that was used to optimize for you. So this you don't have to type anymore or even guess what's the right amount of RAM or CPUs. It's going to do for you, save a new pipeline in your launchpad, and you can run and spend less money and have your result quicker, right?
That's great, because it is not my expertise, so maybe my question is stupid, but I assume it's kind of like hard to know what kind of resources you need to process a pipeline until the time you process that pipeline.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if I'm probably if people are probably like me, they're probably going to go to try to use higher resources because you want to be sure things are not going to fail and you're going to get the result as fast as possible. But that also means that you may get like that surprise AWS billing at the end of the month, and basically you paid for things you do not need. So that's an amazing feature. I like that.
Yeah, and actually it's important even outside cloud, because cloud is obvious. I mean, you're gonna waste money, right? But even if you, I work in a university, we have a cluster for free, we don't pay anything, so I don't care. Well, you should, because if you need 1 gigabyte of RAM and you're requesting 10, the workload manager of the cluster, like Slurm, is going to take longer to give you opportunity to run your process because there is not enough resources. There is 5 gigabytes of RAM available. You're requesting 10. It's not going to give you space. But, if you ask for 2, which is the right one, there's opportunity now to run your job. So picking the right resources is important everywhere, because we have workload managers everywhere trying to manage the resources, right? So if you ask more than you need, it's going to take longer. Maybe you will never get an opportunity, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. In a case like you described, because it's shared resources, like at the time you're using the resources that you don't need, other people can use them. So think about other people, folks.
And one nice thing about the Nextflow community in general is that we have this project called NF Core. You probably saw my mug while I was drinking water.
Yes,
so this NF Core project, so the NF Core, like Nextflow Core, right, is a community inside the Nextflow community. And basically this community, which is filled with Nextflow ambassadors, the goal is, okay, Marcel, you told me that Nextflow is this language that I use to describe my pipeline, and I can use Nextflow to orchestrate this. Good, but I have to write the pipeline. Yes, you do. So if you think about the food recipe, if I'm starving, I still need to cook, right? You can give me, 1 billion recipes. I'm still starving. I cannot eat recipes. I need the food. And you need to cook, which is Nextflow, but you also need people to write these recipes. Maybe you want to eat something different, you don't know how to do that.
Okay.
NF Core, you can think of NF Core as a community effort to have these amazing recipes that a lot of people use. So if you go to pipelines here, you're going to have dozens of pipelines, of recipes that are unique. What do I mean with that? So if you look at this number here, it's like, okay, 55, 80 pipelines. That's nothing, just 80. The thing is, there are 80 unique data analysis. They do completely different things. And then it starts to be a large number, because I think most people cannot think of 70 different types of data analysis. So here we have lots of different pipelines. And for example, huge amount of people that work with genomics, for example, with bioinformatics, they do RNA-seq analysis. We already have here an RNA-seq pipeline ready for you. So if you are doing some research and you have the data, you don't even have to write your own pipeline. You just type Nextflow run NF Core RNA-seq, provide your data, and the pipeline is going to be run. And it's not only
Loving it.
ready to use, it's a curated pipeline, which means you have lots of institutions around the world, like Harvard, MIT, lots of universities in Europe. They've been using these pipelines, and then you see, okay, in this publication, this big company, you see big people using these things, and then you say, okay, I can trust this pipeline. It's just not just random pipeline I found on the internet. It's really,
Yeah.
a pipeline people have been using.
That's amazing. I love that. Like everything that makes people life easier. It's amazing, especially when it's like open. It's open source and you have access to it. It's kind of my wheelhouse. So awesome. Love
And
that.
another interesting thing, that if you go to the pricing tab here for Seqera Cloud, here, program. So we have the free. So recently we had a rebranding, so it's not Tower anymore, it's Seqera now. So you can just read Seqera Cloud Free, Seqera Cloud Professional. So we have a tier which is paid. But the interesting thing is that if you are in a research institution, like with students and stuff, you don't have to pay. So you can apply for a connected program. So even the professional tier, it's for free. Only the enterprise tier, it's paid. And then it has lots of stuff that actually are not even required most of the time. It's just for large companies.
Awesome. That's great. So if people wants to try this at home, you can obviously try Nextflow, and you can use Tower or Seqera Cloud. It's available. It's for you. Amazing.
And then, like, the nice thing here, they're getting started. Like, basically, if you have Java in your machine, you just type this command, which is gonna download and install it, and you run Nextflow, run below, and you're gonna make it work. So basically, by typing this command, you already run a hello pipeline, which is a very easy pipeline. But in the background, what this is doing is like going to the GitHub, getting its repository, pulling your machine, organizing the files, getting the Nextflow recipe, and running that for you and showing what's happening. So it's a lot of stuff for a single command. And some people don't realize the amount of complexity that we have in the background.
Yeah, that's we need people like you to build complex things that make it life easier for folks. Yeah, I can understand that. This is what we're doing at Cube First. Basically, like, we took care of all the complexity for folks, and after that, they can just like run a command or use the UI, and voila, like they get the end result. But like, it doesn't mean that it's simple. It just means that like we build something that make it simple for folks. So I can totally understand the work behind that, and yeah, amazing. So yeah, seems like a really great product. Glad there is that open source component. Glad there is also something that helps company with the cloud offering. That's amazing. And on that note, I think it's kind of like the end of the show. So any last word for people listening or people who's going to watch the recording?
Just like if you go to the Nextflow.io and to community, you have all the links for the community forum, for the Slack, for ways to reach us. And if you want to know more about Nextflow, feel free to DM me on Twitter or send an email, join the Slack. Feel free to reach out to ask questions about Nextflow in the NF Core. Maybe it's going to be useful for you. Maybe you want to organize an event or invite us for a talk. We are more than welcoming you to get in touch.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So thanks again for being a guest on the show. That was a pleasure to learn more about what you do at Seqera. learning a little more about Nextflow, learning about your career. So thanks again. And for folks watching us, thanks also for joining live. You were a little bit quiet today. You didn't really ask any question, but it doesn't mean that you were not listening. If you watch the recording, hi to you also. It's not because you're not live that like we cannot say hi. And lastly, if you are a developer advocate and you want to be part of the show, I'm always looking for guests. Just ping me, go on the website. The information is there, and it's really just a laid back show with like two friends or two new friends talking about DevRel, talking about one's person career, sharing advices. And as you saw, there is the demo part where we want to go a little more technical to learn about cool stuff that we can use in our job as developer advocate, or people listening that are developers, DevOps, or GitOps people can also use in their day to day. So that was a pleasure again. Thanks again for being on the show, Marcel. And
Thanks for
Marcel,
having me.
and see you, everyone. See you in 2 weeks for the next episode of the DevRel Show.